right, so let's talk about a matter very near and dear to my heart, and that is increasing club head speed, hitting longer drives, all that fun stuff. Now, like everything else in the world these days, there's a lot of bits and pieces out there on the internet, some good, some bad, some misleading, some just flat out wrong. But the most important thing when we talk about increasing club head speed is like a lot of other things, what's the right knob to turn for that individual? Because there's a bunch of different components here, and it's important to understand, respect, and analyze all of those components before you just blindly say, try the speed sticks training system, or do more stretching, or whatever the case may be, because the reality is that may or may not be the right thing for that individual. So few things I look at when I'm working with a golfer, and like I said, I kind of consider these, in my brain, I look at this almost like buckets, and we want to see which buckets does this player already have full, and which buckets are empty or we can get a lot more out of, because we want to turn the right knob that gets us the fastest change possible, the easiest wins, and then we can grind out if they need a little bit more yardage at the end. We can grind out those tougher ones. It's not unlike weight loss. It's like the last 10 pounds are a lot harder to lose. A couple really easy, simple changes really early on are going to make the biggest difference. So when we talk about training for speed, a couple different factors. First thing is just who. And when I say who am I dealing with? Who is the golfer in front of me? Are they a good player? Have they been playing a long time? Are they tall? Are they short? Do they have long limbs? Do they have short limbs? How much range of motion do they have? Obviously, this is when we get into like movement assessment. Are they a loose person? Are they a tight person? Are they somebody that does a lot of exercise? Are they somebody that doesn't do a lot of exercise? What's their sport history? Have they played other things? Are they a rotational athlete? Have they played baseball, tennis, hockey, all that fun stuff? That's all factored in, and how we're going to look at if what their speed potential is, or what's the right knob to turn. Because if they are an experienced golfer, it's probably likely that they've got a swing that's kind of grooved and dialed in. So we're probably not going to be able to get as much out of a swing change right away. So first thing I'll look at when we train somebody, or somebody comes in and says, I want more club head speed, is we're going to do not just a physical assessment like a TPI screen, though that's really important. I'm going to check out how they move. Are there any big gaps? Can they separate? All that fun stuff. What I really want to look at too is I'm going to put them more than likely in our gears bay in a 3D assessment. I want to see how all the parts move together, because at the end of the day, the most important thing when it comes down to hitting the ball farther is just physics. All it could possibly be, all the answers can only be physics and biology. So if it's anything outside of that, it just doesn't make any sense, so we're just trying to maximize the person's physics to get the greatest result, to get the greatest change. So I'm going to look in 3D and check out, okay, how do they sequence? How do they load? How much pressure can they shift? Are they moving? Are they creating longer lever arms? Because those are really important components, because you can dial up whatever you want in the gym, in the weight room, but if the actual sequence they're using or their physics aren't correct, they're not going to get a whole lot out of it. So once we've gone ahead and assessed that and figured out where the wins are there, and the other thing I love about that too is that's something I can change right away. So like if I'm working on getting more mobility or getting stronger or any of those things, training takes a little bit of time. I can make a physics adjustment pretty quick and see a really quick change. So a lot of times that's the first win I'm looking for, is I want to get the physics to set up as good as I can. So now when I go to the other side of the building for us and I get into the training realm, I can start seeing what gaps do they need there. And a lot of that's going to come down to, do they need more mobility? Are they strong enough? And how fast can they express that strength? That's pretty much it. Now, when we get deep down into the weeds, we can talk about different things like, training for power. Do we want to use longer rest times? Do we want to only encourage absolute maximum efforts? There's a lot of little decisions to be made here, but they're all really important, because just because something looks like it's fast or you're moving quickly does not necessarily mean that it's an effective way to train to gain more speed. And at the end of the day, if the person doesn't have, and this is one of the things we talk about with junior golf all the time, if they don't have a good base of strength and mobility, just good human movement, all the other stuff you do is not going to really pay off for you. So first and foremost, If I want to make somebody gain more club head speed, I want to make them at their base as good of an athlete as I can make them, get them as explosive as I can make them. Then we can get down into the nitty gritty on, are they good at creating a lot of power? Are they good at acceleration? Are they good at expressing that power quickly? Do they move well? And do they have adequate range of motion and stability to handle the force that I'm asking them to put on them? Once we get all those components together, we should have a really good plan to gain a lot of club head speed. Then we need to work the plan, continue testing, continue assessing, monitor what's changing. And then again, on top of that, there are other things like the stack speed training system. I would consider that, more on the end of somebody that's really strong that maybe doesn't necessarily express power quite as quickly as they need to, or just needs to flat out swing harder. But there are some caveats with like the stack system that concern me, and that is it does promote a different sequence than us trying to maximize sequence of the ball because there is no ball you're swinging at. Now that's really a longer term and much more nuanced discussion. But all that being said, I don't want anyone going to like a stack system or a speed training system until we knock out strength, mobility, good general quality athletic stuff, because they're going to get a lot more out of it at that point. That's power.